Scotland's seed potato industry is of high economic value and importance within Scottish agriculture. Scottish seed potatoes supply 80% of a Great British potato industry and much more to the wider potato-based food and drink industries. Scottish seed potato exports are worth £50 million with over 100,000 tonnes exported to non-EU countries every year. The potato industry is constantly under threat from pests and diseases, with one of the main threats being potato cyst nematodes, PCN. For our potato industry to continue to succeed despite imminent threats, there needs to be an integrated management system that is bought into by stakeholders at every level, from landowners and growers to supermarkets and consumers. Today we're at the Barnyards Open Day, which provides a backdrop for industry specialists, growers and supply chain to share knowledge and work together to combat the threat of PCN.
PCN Action Scotland is a government-funded project that brings together Scottish Government, the James Hutton Institute, SRUC, Scottish Agronomy, Soil Essentials and BIOS, and it is a partnership where it brings together agronomists, scientists, growers and some private companies to try and tackle the issues of PCN and how we can reduce the levels that are in our field currently.
Hi, my name is Neil Smith, owner at Barnards Farm, third generation potato farmer. We've got records going back to growing tatties here at Barnyards pre-1960, so we're now over 60 years in close rotation of growing tatties on the land here. The main purpose of the event is to highlight the increasing numbers of PCN in the soils in the whole of the UK, but Angus is a particularly bad area. What we're trying to show is the work that I've been doing with Scottish Agronomy in trying to reduce PCN numbers without nematicides. That's through cover crops and the new varieties that are coming onto the market. So this field we're in at the moment is Elland. The field across the road there is Amanda, both which have now been accepted by the supermarkets for packing varieties. The test, so last year in the trial field, it was Elland in the trial field last year. We were getting counts on average between 48 and 60 in the field. We grew the variety Elland with full rate Nemathorn, 30 kilograms a hectare. We tested the soil again after harvest and we have the numbers down to low single figures throughout every test across the 24-acre field. Cleaning machinery, moving from field to field, cleaning machinery down, especially if you're in a field that has known PCN, moving to say some of the seed grade fields up behind us that we rent to grow our own seed for following years, making sure that just trying the best to stop the spread of what PCN you have and keeping it within the holding, and making sure we're not taking anything up to the high grade seed fields up there. That's big priority for us. So for the last 6 years we've been growing oilseed radish, been using the variety Bento, growing it at 18 kilos a hectare, generally giving it between 20 and 25 kilos of nitrogen, no P, no K. To get the best results, to kill the PCN in the soil, we're having to take a field out of production. So it'll normally be a spring barley crop. Take that out of production and grow it, sow it in May and try and grow it all the way through till October, November. Pod set is normally around about 11 weeks, so we go in and flail it well before pod set and try and get another flush to try and get as much growth under the soil as possible, killing the PCN. Through all the trials, so we're on year 6 now, through all the trials we've done, testing before and after the Bento, we're seeing a 50% reduction in PCN numbers. In conjunction with that, then with the Nemathorin and then with the variety, we have got fields that were above 50 nematodes down to low single figures. We're moving in the right direction. We've found a strategy that is working for us. It's all about testing. I got a real shock from one of the testing houses and they estimated that only 50% of the ware growers in Angus actually tested for PCN, which I find quite incredible. I've been testing every field for, we're on full rotation now, so we're on sixth, seventh year. So I've got a good map of what we have, where the numbers were, where we have them down to. If you don't know what you've got in the soil, you have to know what you've got.
I'm John Pickup and I work at SASA. I've been with SASA for over 30 years and I probably should be retired, but actually this project came along and it was just too good a project not to get involved with. So my role as lead nematologist with SASA now is to work the interface between the Scottish Government and the Plant Health Centre PCN project. The project has come out of a lot of concern raised about the future of the seed potato industry and the ware potato industry in Scotland due to the presence of potato cyst nematode. And potato cyst nematodes probably introduced into Scotland about the latter part of the 19th century, first detected after the First World War. Probably didn't go very far because tatties weren't being moved around on such a big scheme, but probably in the last 50 years have really proliferated. And now we have somewhere in the region of an estimated 50,000 hectares of land infested with potato cyst nematode out of probably a total of 150,000 hectares of total potato land in Scotland. And the economics of some of the work that's done in the project has come up with economic estimates of, I think it said earlier, £4.5 billion worth the potato industry's worth. And this is where it all starts. And so it's a major economic issue and we need to get on top of potato cyst nematode before it causes us problems that we just can't overcome. So measures that we've got to reduce PCN, at the moment it's largely a key measure of land to use to grow seed potatoes has to be tested and found free from potato cyst nematode. So we test. The lab that I've managed for over 30 years at SASA has tested soil from all land used for seed production. And generally we find around about 5–6% of the land we test each year fails for the presence of potato cyst nematode. And then the aim is if the land's tested and found clear, the potatoes harvested from that land will be clear. But that doesn't work really because we take a small sample of around about 400 mils generally from a 1 hectare unit and test that. And if you think of a harvested crop, when your harvested crop is lifted, it will take with it considerably more than 400 mils of attached soil. So it's not working too well because essentially potato cyst nematode is being transmitted before we can actually detect it in the field. And that's something that we need to be a bit smarter about. I mean, it isn't evenly distributed across Scotland. We estimate each year, we're finding somewhere in the region of 5.5–6% of the land that we test has potato cyst nematode each year. Angus is considerably worse. It's around about 10%, the failure rate for Angus, which means that, each year if you're failing 10%, we do de-record quite a bit of land in Angus, but it's only probably we're probably taking 10% and only giving back about 3%, so we're losing land fairly rapidly in Angus to potato cyst nematode. And of course, Angus is the main source of our seed production, over 50% of seed, and that is not sustainable at the rate we're going. That will have to change. And I think we are starting to see some of the Angus growers moving out into surrounding areas, and that's causing concern to the people that already grow in those areas, that they will move their equipment, and if the biosecurity isn't absolutely tip-top, then they're going to be bringing the pest with them into those areas where it's less prevalent at the moment than it is in Angus. The most important thing for controlling PCN is resistance. If you grow a non-resistant or a susceptible variety like Desiree, you'll typically have a 40 to 50-fold increase in the population of PCN. If you grow a resistant variety, like the variety Ellen that we've just been looking at in the field here, it will reduce that population by at least 99%. So compared to the susceptible variety, where you might get, say for example, you get 100 cysts produced, with Ellen you just get 1 cyst produced. So that's resistance, and we score it on a scale of essentially 2 to 9, where 9 is our most highly resistant variety. And tolerance is the ability of the crop to yield in the presence of PCN. Now, tolerant varieties, it also depends on the soil. Tolerance is really difficult to measure. Resistance can easily be measured in a pot test, and whenever we've done various trials working with people like Eric Anderson from Scottish Agronomy, and when we do an assessment for the UK national list and we assess the resistance of a new potato variety, what we find when we put it in field trials like we've seen here is that it performs very consistently with what we've actually seen in a very simple pot test. That's easily done. Tolerance is so much different because the plant might have different levels of nutrition, it may have different levels of water, it'll be under different threats from PCN, so you could have high PCN populations at which it will suffer a bit more than it will at low PCN populations. So you have to work out just exactly what sort of tolerant conditions you're actually going to measure tolerance with if you're going to try and compare one variety with another. And tolerance is very important if a variety is, say, to be moved down to England and be grown in fields where PCN populations are very high, like they are in Lincolnshire, where they grew a tolerant Rostockiensis resistant variety Cara for many years, and as a result resulted in PCN populations at over 100 eggs per gram of soil. So if you put a variety in there that isn't tolerant, it's just going to fall over, whether it's resistant or not. If you can, and what we would aim to do is to bring populations down to low levels, and if you're operating at levels around about 5 eggs per gram or lower, then tolerance isn't really that important because you're not going to lose much yield at those very low levels, because the damage that the nematodes can do at that sort of level to the crop isn't going to be that great.
My name is Eric Anderson. I'm a senior agronomist at Scottish Agronomy. PCN Action Scotland is a consortium of researchers, and my part is looking at integrated crop management as part of PCN control. Cover crops are nothing new. We can think about cover crops in terms of soil structural properties. We can think about cover crops in terms of green manure. But today we're looking at cover crops as an aid to reduce PCN and or free living nematode numbers. And the species that have been used historically perhaps aren't the best to be using in the future. And a good example of that is Vongai Chechnya, who is a PhD student working at James Hutton and also at Harper Adams. She's involved in a piece of trials work with Scottish Agronomy and Grampian growers looking at free living nematode numbers in relation to different cover crop species. And we've actually found that some cover crops are amplifying the levels of particular free living nematodes. In particular, Pratylenchus free living nematode numbers are increasing in relation to using Phacelia as a cover crop. So Phacelia is great for structural properties, but if you put that in, the unintended consequence is it's a relatively good host for multiplying up numbers of Pratylenchus penetrans free living nematode numbers. So that's an unintended consequence of, that's not what we wish to achieve in this instance. Whereas if we choose oil radish, for example, that's got much better effect on suppressing or reducing the population of free living nematode numbers by an order of 50%. So we're looking at the sustainability of PCN control over a rotational context, and for wearland that might be growing potatoes 1 year in 4, 1 year in 5. For seed it's generally one year in 6 or more. Now in the presence of PCN with a susceptible variety, you can have a 70-fold multiplication of PCN within a single season. Therefore the level of PCN in the ground, we talk about the detectable level. At the statutory level, if you find a positive sample, then there is a minimum level of something like 50 cysts per kilogram of soil being present. So you've got literally millions of PCN present in a hectare before it is detectable. And we're trying to suppress the overall levels of PCN within a population so that we can sustainably grow potatoes, perhaps if we don't have current nematicides available in 2 or 3 years' time.
If you would like to find out more about PCN, visit the PCN Action Scotland website.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Stevenson, bringing you this week's Rural Roundup. It's quite nice to be having a dry day after all the rain that we've been having, which seems to have covered most of the country, and a nice frosty morning as well. With some frost and some snow being seen, it's also always a good time to think about what you're doing with your farmyard manure if you're mucking out cattle to quarters at this time of year. So make sure you aren't spreading any farmyard manures when it's been frosty for 12 out of a 24-hour period, and also don't go and spread any manures when there's snow on the ground as well. Also, it's worth remembering that we're currently in the NVZ close period, so don't go and spread any high-end manures such as cattle slurry or pig manure. A lot of people have been asking about EECS 2023 and if they've got in or not. At the moment we're taking it that no news is good news, so we are hopeful that we'll be hearing in the next 7 to 10 days what the results are. There is a couple of deadlines which you need to be thinking about. So if you're part of the Scottish Suckler Beef Support Scheme, you might have noticed you couldn't make your claim just before the end of the year as they closed the website for essential maintenance. So there has been an extension on the deadline for putting in your application. You can do this through until midnight on the 14th of January. So make sure you have submitted your calf scheme claim by then. So the Agricultural Flood Bank Repair Scheme 2023 is open for people in the Aberdeen, City of Aberdeen, Perth and Kinross, Angus, Fife, Moray and parts of the Highlands, the Speyside area. So this is for people that had flood damage caused by the storms in the autumn of 2023. So you can claim up to £30,000 per farm, which has a business reference number. So this is for you to help you to fix these areas. So it's worth having a look if you haven't already heard about it. And the applications for this close on the 15th of January. So there's an application form which you'll find on the Rural Payments and Services website, which you need to fill in and email across to them along with supporting evidence. As well as this, they're looking for a signed copy of your form as well to be posted to them, just to make sure that they've got all this information. So make sure you have a look at this, have a look on the Rural Payments and Services website for all the details about how to do it, but the deadline for this is the 15th of January. Finally, the last claim deadline which you need to be thinking about is for the Preparing for Sustainable Farming. The deadline for this is the 29th of February. So this is for work that's been carried out from the 1st of January 2023 through until the 31st of December 2023. So this will be for your carbon audit, for soil analysis that you got carried out, as well as for animal health and welfare interventions. So it's a good idea to make sure you get your claim in plenty of time. You do still have a wee while to go. The claims have been quite low, so it's a good idea to put your claim in, because if you don't use it, you could end up losing having this option available to you as well. There will be another round of this grant scheme for Preparing for Sustainable Farming in 2024. So this will be work carried out from the 1st of January 2024 through until the 31st of December, and claims will have to be made by the end of February 2025. So if you haven't gone and taken part in the last 2 years,
you are able to claim in 2024, or if you have previously claimed, you can do another veterinary option. You could go and do more soil samplings and you could claim again. It's definitely very worthwhile taking advantage of this funding, as it is unlikely to continue going forward, so make the most of it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.